Hey everyone, so this is assignment 46. I always think of it as transition day, as we transition away from scatter plots to other types of trig word problems. And a feature in some of these trig word problems is going to be a discussion about bearings. Um, so when we're talking about bearings, yeah, they're 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 I think they're really hard for students, and I don't know why. So I want to take time right now at the beginning to discuss just bearings, nothing else but how to draw these bearings, because I think that will lower your stress level a little bit as we then go and do a bearing word problem or two. Okay. All right. So bearings are always based on a compass rose: north, south, east, west. Often bearing 27 east. Usually, we start with north south and then have east west. But I could write this same bearing as east 63 degrees north. How? What is this you're talking about? Yeah, I'll get there. 1 second. So, the convention, normally north or south, and then east or west. But we can run across written in this form. And there are also different groups measure the angle different ways. Pilots, for example, start here with 0 degrees. And yeah, we're not going to do that because we've just spent, the last month talking to you about this line being 0 degrees. So we're going to actually define bearings this way for our class, okay? North 27 degrees east. What that means is you start by heading north, and then you go 27 degrees to the east. Okay, that there is north 27 to the east. Or we could describe that same angle, that same, maybe vector is a better word, certainly bearing, as east 63 north. Head east and then go 63 degrees to the north. These two, by the way, always add up to 90. You can use that one, that's fine by me, but most of the time we're going to see this. Okay? All right, so that's north 27 east. These problems always start with an understanding of this compass rose. This is the direction I head to. This is how far I rotate in that other direction. So I'm going north, but I'm going to rotate towards the east 27 degrees. I'm going east, but I'm going to rotate 63 degrees to the north. All right, so that's bearing. Now, let's practice some of them. Because, no, really, let's practice some of them. How about west? Ooh, no, I'm sorry, that says north 70 degrees west. Will you draw that one? And we'll compare in a minute. Okay, how'd it go? Compass rose, heads to the north, goes 70 degrees to the west. West over here. North, east over here. If this said north 70 east, I'd be going this way. North and then 70 degrees in that direction. But this says north 70 degrees to the west. And there's my angle. Okay. How about this one? How about south 40 degrees east? Please draw south 40 degrees east. Okay, compass rose, heading south, going 40 degrees to the east. This is south 40 east. Headed south, and then going 40 degrees, rotating 40 degrees to the east. And how about this one? South 60 degrees west. Okay, give it a try. So, south, 60 degrees to the west. So there's my bearing. Of course, I could also define this as west, 30 degrees south. I had west and 30 degrees south. Now, it's interesting, a common mistake that I see in these problems is students think, like they say, oh, I'm going to go south first. But then they write south 30 west. And no, south 30 west would be this. It's not ours. It's like they're mixing these two things together, and I think it's because they're going to head this way first instead of this way first. So I think really they wanted to write this one, but they're so used to writing north-south first. Yeah, so watch out for that. All right, so those are bearings. Now, what does this look like in a trig word problem? Well, let's say this. I'm going to change pen. Let's say south 52 degrees east for 7 miles, then turn to a bearing of north 38 degrees east for 24 miles. And this is a little trip we went on. First we headed south 52 degrees east, we went 7 miles. Then we stopped and we went on a bearing of north 38 east for 24 miles. And I'm going to be asked 2 questions. The first question is, how far from home am I? And B, on what bearing do I need to travel to get home? Okay, these are my 2 questions. I think before I can answer either of those, I need to see what's going on here. So I'm going to draw a little picture of what's going on here. Okay, so first thing I did was I traveled at south 52 degrees. Like, remember, halfway is 45 and 45, so I want a little more than halfway. Okay, so this is 52 degrees. And I'm going for 7 miles. And then I get here. And then turn to a bearing of north 38 east. Okay, draw another compass rose. This time we're going north and 38 degrees east. This could be just a little less. And we're going for 24 miles. So this has got to be much longer than that one. Maybe not that much, but definitely longer. Okay, so, and this is 24. And what were our 2 questions? Well, if I'm here at the end of my second leg, how far am I from home? That's the first question. What's that length? Well, hold on a second. Do you remember from geometry that parallel lines cut by a transversal form congruent alternate interior angles? Yeah, I can speak that language too, by the way. And now look what we've got. The angle in between the first bearing and the second bearing, 52 plus 38. Now in this unit, that's always going to be a right angle. When we get to the non-right triangle stuff, it's chapter 6 in your textbook, that's when this won't have to be 90 anymore. But for right now, all the bearing problems you're going to do, that's going to be a right angle. And if that's not a right angle, then you've made a mistake and you should go find it before you go any further. Okay? And because this is a right angle, 7, 24, and I'm looking for that distance. Part A says, what's the distance to get from where I stop my second leg back home again? And the answer is, well, I just used the Pythagorean theorem here. In fact, it's a 7, 24, 20. That's right, 25. right triangle. You'll see these Pythagorean triples still showing up in our trig word problems. Okay, so part A, this is 25 miles. Fabulous. Now, the more challenging part B. Let's think about part B. On what bearing do I need to travel to get home? Well, so I draw yet another compass rose. This is where I am, this is where I want to go, and this is the path I need to take. And again, I could define this bearing two different ways. I could head west, something south, or I could head south, something west. I will say that often sometimes what happens when people go south first is they stop here. And that's not our way to get back home. In fact, parallel lines cut by a transversal, these are 38 degrees. Well, okay, so yeah, I'm not headed home on a bearing of 30 south, 38 west, right? Because I'm actually headed home on this line, and so I need to know this whole angle. And it's cool that I know that this is 38, but I also need to figure out this one. Let's call it theta. Because theta plus 38, that's my bearing angle. All right, well, how do we find theta? Well, again, I got a lot of visual noise going on here, so I'm just going to pull out that right triangle again. And I'm looking for theta. I know this is 24, and I know this is 7. Any way I can find theta here? Any trig function you know that relates opposite and adjacent? Sure. This is going to be tangent of theta is 7 over 24. And so if I want to know what theta equals, well, I'll take the inverse tangent of each side. I think that gets cut off. So I'm going to take tangent inverse of tangent theta equals tangent inverse of 7 over 24. Okay, so pull out the calculator. Remember, these are in degrees. So I want to make sure my mode is in degrees. And I want inverse tan of 7 divided by 24. Okay, I get that this is 16.26020471 degrees. That's not my bearing angle either. 260. My bearing angle is this 38 plus this 16.260. So how did I find the 38? These are alternate interior angles. And how did I find the 16.26? Tangent. So I did inverse tangent. Okay. Okay. So now what's my bearing angle? Well, it's 38 plus 16, which is 54.26 degrees. So I could say my bearing home is south. I'm going to head south, and then 54.26 degrees west. Of course, I could always find that angle and subtract that angle from 90 to find this one. And so if I did 90 minus 54.26, I've got west 35.74 degrees, and I'm heading south. These are the two possible answers to part B. What bearing do I need to go on to get home? Okay, so I kind of feel like I want to go through that one again, now that you've sort of seen the whole thing, and this time a little faster, but we know what we're doing. So I start here, and I head south 52 east. South 52 east. Okay, I stop, and then I turn north 38 east. North 38 east. Remember, this one should be longer than that one. I kind of ran out of space here, so I'm just going to Draw my compass rose and say, yeah, that's 24, and that first leg is 7. Again, parallel lines, that must be 52. 52 and 38 gives me that right angle. Cool. This is the bearing or the path home for me. And its distance, because this is a right triangle, is Pythagorean theorem used with these values. Whoa, you're frozen. Well, that's not good.